Hey, what's going on, guys? Dan Watson, and we're going to talk about the A7 IV because I think this is a camera we're going to see a lot sooner, and there is a lot that I think we know about this camera now that we didn't know several weeks ago. But first, kind of one of the reasons might be that this camera is on the A7 III is on a $200 sale plus a ton of freebies and extras. This is a steal. This camera's always been $2 grand, so it is $200 cheaper with a ton of extras. First time I have ever seen that from a legitimate reseller. This is better than you can get it used in most cases, so definitely check that out. And the bigger deal is the A7R III. So this is the 4, but the A7R III, which has a 42 megapixel camera, has a better viewfinder, better screen, is $1,000 cheaper than the R4 right now, and only a couple $100 more than the A7 III was. So that is a massive deal. Again, both of these cameras got firmware updates not long ago that enabled like time lapse and better autofocus and tracking and eye autofocus all throughout all of the modes. So a whole bunch of feature upgrades on that. So you should absolutely check those out. I do have my recommended lenses, gear, accessories, gimbals, cards, all that kind of stuff that I have tested and I know is good for these cameras. So check out those below. And then if you have these, I have a menu help guide that'll walk you through any aspect of this menu when you are setting up this camera to tell you what it is and when you should use it. That is actually, I used to charge for that. You can enter any amount, so you can enter a penny if you want to. You can throw in a couple bucks. My wife and I have an anniversary on Thursday. You could donate to that if you want to. Babe, I didn't forget. Awesome stuff coming your way. So yeah, you can do any of that stuff. Download that guide, check it out. That'll help you a whole lot. But let's talk about the A7 IV and what I think it will have. The first thing I think we feel very comfortable on is going to be the body style. I think it will very closely, if not almost identically, represent the A7R IV, and that is because even the A9 II is picking up this same body style, and Sony loves to continue that same body style around the same camera. So here are the upgrades. We will probably see some new battery doors, things like that. You're going to see UHS 2 in both slots. You will see some better buttons overall and a layout, and just the navigation and feel of the camera have been improved. The grip has been improved. And so there's going to be some hardware improvements all around. I do think that we will see a higher resolution viewfinder and most likely this screen. Now, part of that is that the A7 III actually has the worst resolution viewfinder and screen of pretty much any full frame, like the Nikon Z6 and the EOS R both have better viewfinders and screens. So those could use an upgrade. But we also, on the R4, which this is the R4, we saw an improvement in that in the viewfinder and screen. Actually, there's just a viewfinder. So I do think we will see possibly the R3 screen and viewfinder into the new A7 IV. Now, the bad side to that is you're not going to see anything major in terms of a hardware change. So most likely we will not see things like flip screens. If you're not happy with the body style of this camera, you're probably out of luck. But if you do love, it's going to be pretty much the tried and true A7R IV, which is an upgrade. And you can notice a difference between this and like the R3. So I expect that it will be a pretty decent size upgrade in build quality from the A7 III. Now we will see a new processor on these, so that will equate to better battery life all the way around. And then a new processor will also mean some better readout speeds, and then also some improvements in like the buffer and things like that. We've seen that on the R4. We should see that on an A7 IV. Now the big question is going to be that sensor. Sony has kept a 24 megapixel sensor in this line forever, since the beginning. I think they might do that this time. However, there is room for them to upgrade. They have been working on a 30 megapixel, but a lot of them, the investment has been in a 48 megapixel full frame sensor. We could see that in the A7 IV, and that would mean some big changes all the way around. So now that the R4 is into that 60 megapixel, it could open the door for that in that 48 megapixel, and then all the APS-C cameras right now are 24. So it'll help kind of show off a little bit of differentiation between those full frame 48 megapixel sensors and the APS-C 24 megapixel sensors. When it comes to speed, I don't expect things to change. So we had 10 frames per second before. We've seen that on the R4. Again, we're not seeing any speed changes on the A9 II. I think that will remain true for the A7 III. We will have 10 frames per second in both mechanical and electronic. Now you will notice a huge improvement in autofocus. So Sony has made a lot of improvements in that in the last couple of years. It will be a revolutionary system to the A7 IV, but not to Sony in general. It will be kind of the same system that we've been used to on their other cameras. So that means real-time tracking across all modes. We will also have full-time IAF, which actually they just put on the A7 III via an update, so that's here. We will also have improved IAF performance and IAF in video. So most likely you will see a pretty big improvement. I'd say in my use of these cameras, like the R4 versus the A7 III, it is a pretty big difference, and it puts Sony on a completely different level than everyone else in terms of autofocus performance. However, one of the weaknesses has always been their touchscreen implementation. So as far as like tapping on the screen to track your subject or moving your points around with the screen, the touchscreen interface has always been horrible and the touchscreen performance has been horrible. I don't expect that to change. So if you're someone who likes to tap on your subject and focus, I still think Sony is not going to feel amazing, even though the technology is there in so many aspects. But if you're somebody who is going to be using the wide mode and tracking subjects or moving your focus points around via joystick, I think this will be the best performance on virtually every camera except maybe the A9 II. Now I think video is where you're probably going to see most of the disappointment on this camera, except maybe if they choose the same 24 megapixel sensor. And it's not necessarily that it's bad, it's going to be good, and it's probably going to be the best quality Sony camera for video all the way around, unless the A7S upgrade eventually comes around. I don't know where that camera is. Moment of silence to all of you who have been waiting for that. But that camera has been long overdue. My guess is that Sony is hurting to try to figure out like overheating and other issues that are going along with these cameras, especially because I've had my R4 overheat on me during video. So I think it's just tough for Sony in these body styles and with the technology that's available to put 4K 60 without massive changes and 10-bit and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think we'll see that. However, what we will see is improved IAF on the video side, most likely unlimited recording now, so no more 30-minute limit, which will be great. You will have that better processor, which might make a little bit of difference in quality, but AF algorithms and all that kind of stuff. And then all the things that we already love about the A7 III, like IBIS and dual card slots and all that stuff are going to be here in the new A7 IV, which will make it overall an amazing Sony camera for video. However, yes, those things like 4K 60, improvements to IBIS, flip out touchscreens or better touchscreens all the way around, I don't think those are coming yet. Those will be the A7S. If we ever see the camera come in, that will be what those features are reserved for. Now, if you don't already have this camera, remember that this camera got a pretty heavy firmware upgrade not too long ago with things like time lapses, better autofocus, a lot of new firmware upgrade features on the menus and video recording and custom naming of files. So all of those improvements will be seen in the A7 IV. And if it's a camera that you're looking at right now, it's a huge upgrade from where it was when we first reviewed it. And so it's really a nice camera, especially for that massive sale that's going on right now. But I'd love to hear you guys' comments. So if there's anything that you disagreed with or think that we will see, or maybe a feature that you think is a must-have for Sony in order to blow away the competition on this one, let me know. But I think this camera is going to be coming sooner than later. So probably towards the beginning of next year, I think we could easily see an A7 IV on the market, potentially even before the A7S upgrade. So let me know your thoughts on that. Be sure to check out some of those other videos, the full review of that. And thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to hit like and subscribe. We got a whole lot more coming up soon.